Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. So again, we've talked a lot about all the different G2 members. Just the other day I posted a video about how the rumors are starting to swirl more and more that G2 might be moving on from Miky, that they might be selling him off. And since I posted that video, I actually had some people reach out to me and say that they are pretty sure, or at least they're getting more and more likely that G2 will be moving on from Miky. That Wonder is one of the most likely candidates we've been hearing about G2 moving on. But now multiple rumor accounts, multiple different people in the scene are saying that Miky is a likely candidate to be sold off as well. And I know I talked about in the latest video that I wasn't exactly sure where he'd be going or where he'd be a good fit for or where would make the most sense for him. So I took the time to reach out to some people. We were brainstorming all that stuff, thinking about different possibilities. And actually, conveniently enough, Apple had dropped some new rumors, dropped some new tweets. Again, it doesn't mean anything concrete. It doesn't mean anything's finalized. It doesn't mean, that what Apple head says is word of law or anything like that, but it's at least some conversation starters. It's at least some things to discuss. It's at least some ideas. So those are what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy it. I would appreciate it so much. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. We're on that road to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That is my goal that I set at the start of the year. We're getting close. That would be awesome, and with your help we can do it a little bit faster. And consider checking out my Patreon, patreon.com/IamGerm. With that being said, let's get right into this one. So Miky, again, he has been a top level support in Europe forever. The last couple of years he's really been seen as the best support. I mean, maybe there was a split here or there where Kaiser looked like he was the best during the regular season, but once the playoffs came around, once international competition came around, it was always, I think in most people's minds pretty clear that Miky was probably the best support in Europe, especially when he's winning MSI and making it to World Finals and making it to World Semis, and other people weren't really doing it. Hylissang's up there too. Obviously, there are some great supports in Europe, but I think what Miky has been able to do over the past year with multiple different AD carries, caps, and reckless, and perks has been very, very impressive, and is something that obviously has deserved a bunch of attention and everything. But I think Miky has actually been a little bit underrated even in some people's minds. And obviously now he didn't have the greatest year this year, so this is the first time where G2 might actually be looking to move on from him, might be able to sell him off, might be able to get some money from him, but they also might be able to upgrade or at least just go in a different direction because, for whatever reason, this G2 roster did not work out this year. But again, as far as what the different options for Miky are, we have this tweet here. I almost clicked on the wrong tab. We have this tweet here from Applehead where he talks about some contract renewals, which maybe we'll talk about these in other videos. He does talk about here how Misfits have Vander and Kabe both as free agents with no information on renewals. That doesn't mean they won't be renewing. That doesn't mean they won't be re-signing, but it means, he hasn't heard anything behind the scenes. So it leaves Misfits as a potential opportunity, and he does say here he heard that Miky's name has popped up in the conversation for both Team BDS and Misfits. So I wanted to talk about Misfits first because I did talk about Misfits in the last Miky video. That wasn't a rumor, it wasn't, speculation or anything. That's just when I look at the LEC, I think Misfits would be a good fit for Miky because I don't think Carlos is going to sell Miky off to a top team. I don't think he's going to sell him to Fnatic if Hylissang retires. I don't think he's going to sell him off to Rogue because we know that last offseason he didn't want to sell perks to Fnatic because he didn't want to give perks to a top team that he was going to have to compete against. He didn't want to give perks to one of his rivals. Even if he gets a lot of money in return, he's still competing with these teams at the end of the day. And while Misfits is a good team and can maybe even become a great team in the future, I wouldn't be as scared about giving Miky to Misfits as I would be to like Rogue or something like that. So I think Misfits would be an interesting spot because they have some young players, they have an opening in the support position, and they have some money to throw around, most likely. Obviously, if Miky's name is popping up here, they're looking to spend a little bit of money. And they have a bunch of young players that I think Miky could be a good veteran and like leadership presence for. Now, I did get a comment on the last video that was like, they didn't think that would make much sense because Miky is seen as more of a quiet guy, more of a quiet player, and that he doesn't really fit into the kind of stereotypical veteran leader role that's going to be able to mentor a bunch of young players and is going to be like this big vocal leader that gets everyone rallied up, that shows everyone how to do everything, maybe how people see like a Perks or some player like that. And I agree with that to an extent. I get what they're saying. That wasn't really something I addressed in the last video. But actually, I saw in the most recent interview that Miky had with Ashley Kang, where Miky talks about how this season he actually started to step up a little bit more, and he started to talk a little bit more. He started to be a little bit more vocal in scrims and in games, and saying what he needs and saying what he wants. And laning with Reckless allowed him to open up a little bit more, because Reckless has been an AD carry for so long, and he doesn't need as much help or babysitting or constant attention as like a Perks needed. So I think part of it is that yes, Miky is probably a little bit quieter by nature, maybe a little bit more reserved, but I think also he's played on G2 for the last couple of years. They haven't needed Miky to be a vocal player or a leader on the team or anything like that. When you have a veteran-laden team, when you have Wonder, Yankos, Perks, Caps, you have all these big personalities, all these guys who talk a ton, Miky can take a backseat, and if anything, he should take a backseat, because you don't want to have cluttered comms. You don't want to have 5 leaders. For somebody like Perks to be a leader, there needs to be followers on the team. So that doesn't mean that Miky is incapable of going to Misfits and starting to talk a little bit more, starting to open up a little bit more, or being a veteran or being a leader on that team. And also, I think that leading by example, and even showing people how to practice correctly, how to scrim correctly, how to show up on game day, how to be consistent, how to win, how to draft, all of that stuff that doesn't require as much like actual vocalization of stuff, or doesn't require you to be a big personality, could still be a potential really, really big help to Misfits. But I also do understand how people are saying he's not necessarily like a Perks type personality or veteran type leadership. So maybe he wouldn't be the perfect fit for Misfits. I still think Misfits is the most likely landing spot, and I still think it would be a great fit. But then also, I think BDS would be absolutely amazing for a couple of reasons. One, no one really knows, Team BDS. Obviously, some people know them, but as far as an LEC brand goes, so many fans are going to be meeting Team BDS for the very first time. And they, we've seen a leaked roster or a rumored roster of Team BDS recently, and it was 5 players that, one, I think would finish towards the bottom of the LEC, 2, would not get fans hyped up and excited. And I think in your first split, when you're making that first impression, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, you need to have at least one player that's exciting, hyped up, at least one player that gives new fans or fans that are on the fence about rooting for your team or checking your team out or cheering for your team or whatever, a reason to care about your team or to watch your team. And you're going to want to get your socials going. You're going to want to, YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and all this stuff, get all that going. If you have a bunch of players that nobody cares about at all, good luck. And then, you're just fighting an uphill battle, because you're starting out as this irrelevant team that nobody cares about. You have to really, overperform and overcatch their attention later to make up for it. So in that regard, I think BDS would be a great spot for Miky. Obviously, a popular player, a player with a big name, a big brand for them to build around. They would get some fans over to the team. It could help out with all their stuff. And in that regard, I think BDS needs to go out and make a splash. Again, who knows exactly how much money they're going to have, who knows what moves they're going to be able to make, who they're interested in or whatever. But again, here, Applehead is at least saying that BDS might be a possible option for Miky. And if I'm BDS, I think that would be a very, very good move. Now, if I'm Miky, I would much rather end up on Misfits, because I have a better shot at being a good team in the near future. And BDS, their rumored roster looks really, really rough. But obviously, Miky doesn't get to decide at the end of the day. He has some say in what goes on, but it's going to be wherever Carlos sells him off and whoever decides to buy him. But those are looking like 2 of the potential possible landing spots if G2 does decide to sell off Miky in this coming offseason. And I thought it was pretty interesting to talk about. Definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy this video. I would appreciate it so much. Leave a comment down below. Where do you think Miky is going to be playing in 2022? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!